This week you are working on your literary analysis outline and draft. So here's the link to upload the literary analysis outline. I also have for you a template outline that you can use. If you click on that, you can download it as a Word document, open it, click Enable Editing, and then where I have information, you can backspace and put your information. Of course, you want to update the date for the due date for this outline, which is the 8th. Ooh, see, happens. April, just like in real class. It's hard to type and talk at the same time. And make sure that you keep the formatting. Again, you can keep the Roman numerals the same if you like, because the details that you will contribute according to your literary analysis will be in the A, B, C, D sections, and E at times. So if you have forgotten what goes in an introduction, for example, you can Control-click and see the PDF, how to write an introduction for an essay. But I really recommend that you go ahead and start with the body paragraph information. And I have also posted for you, of course, a couple of resources on writing thesis statements. You'll want a working thesis statement at this point to guide your body paragraphs, because all of your body paragraphs should really be supporting that thesis statement. If you have a body paragraph that does not support your thesis statement, then you should use a different thesis statement. So I did the Control-click and brought up this information on literary analysis thesis statements. So when you go to write your thesis statement, make sure you choose one type of literary analysis and back that reading up, that analysis type of literary criticism up with the literary elements that could include character, setting, archetypes, if you're especially doing an archetypal analysis, aspects of each character could include things like symbol. We have Red Riding Hood wearing a red cape. The character of the wolf himself is an archetype or symbol. A lot of overlap happens as you are working on your literary analysis. So don't be concerned too much with that overlap of, oh, this falls into a historical criticism or an archetypal criticism. Just make sure that you make it clear how your type of analysis or literary criticism, your evidence for that from your primary source and the secondary sources support your reading. So again, I kind of skipped the introduction just to figure out what my point is going to be in the paper. So what am I introducing? Well, I need 3 main points. I know that. Sometimes I even start in the middle of the body paragraphs here. I start with my secondary source. This outline was set up to analyze a novel, but you are analyzing a fairy tale. But you're still using secondary sources. So you'll have a main point that is being supported by something you read in a secondary source, one of the sources that you researched or used from my collection of sources I posted for you. And when you use the context from the secondary source, also quote either a phrase from that source or a full sentence, but something that shows me that you got that legitimately from that source, that idea. And then you're going to quote also from the, not novel, but the fairy tale. And then the last section should explain thoroughly how the writing or the section you quoted from the fairy tale and the section you quoted from the secondary source are supporting your thesis. And your thesis will be something like the story of Little Red Riding Hood can be read as a Marxist warning that all people are not treated fairly, perhaps, in the world as far as social class goes. That might be a Marxist reading that you use. And you could say that the story uses setting, character, and symbol to make that point. So that would be a pretty straightforward way of writing a thesis. And then your second and third body paragraphs follow that same pattern. The E section added, actually the E section is just like the D section here. The A is new in the second and third body paragraphs to encourage you to transition. So if your first body paragraph is about setting and your second body paragraph is about character, you might transition with a sentence that says, in addition to setting, which the first body paragraph was about, characterization shows us many important things about social class. So that would be your Marxist criticism main idea statement. And then you're going to make a point to further solidify that main idea, and then use your secondary source to support what you want to point out in the primary source. Now, C and D don't have to be in that order necessarily. You could put information from Little Red Riding Hood or a quote from Little Red Riding Hood first, and then support it with your context and secondary source quotation and information. But the E is pretty much going to be the same. You're going to explain how those two things pair together. This is one way to organize an essay. You don't have to adhere to this strictly. I just wanted to give you something to go on to help you if you are struggling to know what to write next. Body paragraph 3 would transition. If body paragraph 2 were about character, body paragraph 3 might be about symbol. So you might transition with a sentence about how character is important, and one of the ways that character is important to illustrating the differences in social class that are being pointed out in the fairy tale are through the symbols used to describe each character or the setting or the archetypes, whatever it is that you find interesting that you have also found you can use a secondary source for to help you support your point. And then for the conclusion, I've given you the step-by-step that you have seen before for a conclusion. It's like an upside-down introduction. You're going to reflect on how the topic relates to the primary text as a whole, so Little Red Riding Hood. You're going to make sure that you are going to connect everything back to that thesis statement. And then a way to end, to give that final goodbye and make the reader feel they have come to a good conclusion, is to do one of the last three things. You can make predictions or connect back to the creative opening that you started with. If you manage to do that, that's always a really advanced way to write, to come back full circle, or to give your opinion without saying, in my opinion. You can discuss, I should say, the fairy tale's value or significance, which you really have done throughout this essay, hopefully. Let me know if you have questions.